In honor of Tyler the Creator dropping an album tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow, it's coming out tomorrow, Chromacopia is out tomorrow. You might have even heard the album before you've even watched this video, who knows. But in honor of that, we're going to talk about the best track on every single Tyler the Creator album so far. And actually, I've never done a video like this before on this channel, so if you do enjoy it, please let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. And I can make it a mainstay. I can talk about all kinds of different artists, talking about each album and the best track from it. Because I've already done a worst to best for Tyler. I do want to do a top 10 songs for Tyler at some point as well, so that will come in the future, I'm sure. But until then, we're going to talk about each album and the best track from it. As ever, let me know what your picks would be in the comments, and please make sure you're supporting the channel too. Subscribe, check out more videos, like this video, share it around. There's going to be a Chromacopia review coming at some point as well, so you're going to want to stick around for that. If you're feeling really generous, support me over on Patreon to keep videos like this going, and yeah. Also, just enjoy the video. Starting off with Bastard, it is a mixtape, but it is pivotal to Tyler's career. I think watching where he is now to where he was then is super interesting. The growth and maturity is huge. The sound of his music is just way better as well. So honestly, picking a best track from Bastard is quite tricky. It is tricky, I will say that, because it's not really anything I ever go back to, not really something I actively enjoy or seek out, and think it's mostly aged pretty badly. But if I'm picking one track that I do think is actually alright, it's decent, it's French. I think a lot of people would probably pick this track too. It's hard, it's grimy, the beat is just so clusterfuck. And then you've got, of course, Tyler's delivery, which he's putting a little bit of a modulation on his voice. It's not really my favorite style of Tyler, really, to be honest with you, but I at least kind of think that the flows and the what he's trying to do is still pretty hard knocking. I think that little refrain I think is pretty good too. Yeah, I'm not really speaking about this massively positively, but the passion for this mixtape isn't really there for me. I think there are some Tyler fans that still like this style of Tyler. Of course there's going to be, but yeah, not really a highlight, honestly. Goblin is similar, but I would argue is worse than Bastard, actually. I think some of this music has just really not aged well at all. There's an ugliness to this album that I really struggle to get with, but picking a favourite, there are actually a couple that I think are still quite good from this album. Obviously Yonkers, I think, is still a really entertaining track from Tyler. I think it's quite funny that the general idea of what he's trying to do on this album kind of went over people's heads. Like, it's a bit of a parody. He's kind of taking the mick out of rappers that were doing this style of rapping, but a lot of people still just accepted it and just took it for what it was and didn't really pay attention to that kind of thing. And it is ended up being one of his most infamous songs ever, probably because of that video. But I actually don't think it is the best track. I would actually say She, which lyrically is, again, kind of playing into a lot of the things I've already said about what I don't like about this era of Tyler. But I think it's clear that he is telling a story, and what he's depicting isn't necessarily, something that he is doing or advocating for. So it's a little uncomfortable and at times a little corny with some of the lyrics, but I can at least see what he's trying to do, and I've grown to appreciate what this song is trying to do over the years. Maybe when I first heard it I didn't appreciate it, but now I think I do. And that Frank hook is just great. I mean, Frank Tyler is always one of the best combos in music, really. I mean, just them two coming together on pretty much any track they've ever done is just fireworks. They have crazy chemistry. Tyler knows exactly how to get Frank on a hook where it works. He's done it all his career. Yeah, it's the best track, but still, similarly to French, not really one I go back to on a regular basis. Wolf, however, is up there with Tyler's very best, in my opinion, and is a very underrated and underappreciated album. I think this actually is where Tyler starts to go a little bit more artistic with his style. I think a lot of his rapping performances are actually fantastic here, and there are a lot of tracks that have aged very well and I think are still to this day sounding really, really bloody good. I mean, Rusty, for example, Tamale, which has one of the most outrageous beats I think he's ever done, and some of the weirdest vocal chops and sampling that comes through as well. Some hilarious lines from Tyler on that track. Yeah, I think that track is also in contention here. 48, IFHY, 2 tracks there as well that I think are fantastic. One with Pharrell on it, which I think really works. Yeah, a lot of picks that I could go for the best track on this album. Did I say Rusty? I probably did. I don't know. If I didn't, I should have said Rusty. So many good tracks. But for me, I'm going to go with Answer. This is one of the most revelationary, whatever that word is, tracks of his career. I think the way he's kind of depicting the story here is really interesting, kind of just confronting his dad on the phone. And yeah, it's really hard hitting with these bars. Really hard hitting, really emotional. One of Tyler's most emotional songs ever. And yeah, that hook is fantastic too. Just a really despondent, distant track that makes you feel like you're just alone and you're just waiting for that person to kind of pick up the phone, but you really kind of don't also want them to, because if you told them what you really thought, you'd be saying some really harsh things. So yeah, really fantastic track. I think it's one of his best songs ever, and again, really underappreciated too. And you look at the discography of Tyler Creator, people tend to look at it from Flower Boy onwards, but they are missing out on tracks like this if they do not think that Tyler was dropping some amazing stuff, because Answer is one of many brilliant tracks on this album. I will say though, there's a little bit of a dip from that album to Cherry Bomb. I still think the sort of general response to this album is quite all over the place from people. People tend to say that it's misunderstood, people aren't really getting it. But I still feel like a lot of the mixing and some of the kind of vocal stylings and the way some of these tracks are produced is a bit messy. I feel like he did clean this up and get it right later on in his discography. But for me personally, still Cherry Bomb has a lot of weak spots, and picking a best track similarly to Goblin and Bastard is a little hard, but Smuckers I think is a great one to mention here. Of course, you've got Lil Wayne and Kanye on this track, really iconic verses from those two. And I was pretty close to picking this as the best actually, but it ended up being Death Camp. I think that's the best track on this album. I think it's a fantastic introduction to the album too. And yeah, watching him perform it pretty recently live, I didn't go to the show, I just saw a clip of it online. I was pretty blown away with the energy that he gave this track. I mean, to say it's not really like a critically acclaimed album from Tyler, he still puts his all into this one. It's just as much as he would all of his other tracks that are way more beloved than this one really. But yeah, he performs it with so much gust and so much balls that just made me kind of revisit the song and think I was underrating this one a lot when I went back to Cherry Bomb a while back. So yeah, I think this is the best track. Just love the energy, love the rock kind of feel of the track too, the kind of nerd feel as well. He's always been affiliated with Pharrell and he's a massive fan of nerd as well, so that always bleeds into his music. But on this track particularly, it's just really apparent. Flower Boy is the point of his career where people start to respect and appreciate Tyler a lot more. It's very much the kind of like maturing album that people were waiting for Tyler to release, and I do get that. I think people again though are mistaken when they say he didn't drop good music before this, because I do think there's some great moments across those early parts of his discography, even if it is a little messy. And like I say, Wolf is fantastic anyway as a whole album. So but yeah, Flower Boy, a lot of picks here. So many picks I could have gone for. See You Again, which is by far his biggest song now. The streaming numbers that gets on a weekly basis still blows my mind. It's still one of the most streamed rap songs now. It's like 7 years old. Mad stuff to see. It really could have gone with this track, because I think Kali Uchis sounds amazing on it. I think the kind of phases the song goes through is cool as well. Just a great all-round song. Boredom is great as well. Garden Shed, stunning song. God man, this is really hard to pick for the best song, but I've ultimately gone with 911 Mr. Lonely. Love this track. Kind of highlights the best qualities of what Tyler is able to bring to the table really. Great rapping, great focused lyrical idea that he just really kind of hammers in and gives you a really like clear cut like narrative running through the song, while also just being produced fantastically. It's one of those classic track 10s on his albums where there's a beat switch. Love that moment in the track too. Frank is on this again as well. Of course, Frank always comes through sounding amazing. And the sample as well, the Gap Band Outstanding, interpolating that and reworking it into this track I think is brilliant. And the actual original song too is amazing. If you've never heard Outstanding by the Gap Band, please do that. Please do that. Yeah, love this track. It's my favourite from Flower Boy. I've had a pretty turbulent relationship with Igor. I will say that. I've always found it to be an album that I was a little bit confused by. Initially found the vocals a little hard to digest, but this has become an album that I absolutely adore now. Like, once it clicked, it really clicked, and I really found it hard to put down. And there's so many fantastic tracks. If you'd asked me a few years ago, I'd have said I don't like that many of the songs on the whole thing. But now I think it's fantastic, and now it's hard to pick one song. I mean, good God, what's good? Fantastic. Gone Gone, Thank You. Oh, love that one. Jeez, Earthquake I think is good too. Wouldn't be one that I'm going to pick though. I don't think it's the best song on the album. Puppet, New Magic Wand. New Magic Wand feels crazy not to say as my answer, because that song I think Tyler said was his best ever song, and so many people think it's Tyler's best ever song too. And trust me, it's in that conversation. But somehow it isn't my favourite, even though it should be really. But actually I think is what I'm going to go with my favourite track on Igor, which you know what, it's not terrible to pick that, is it really? It's a great song, it's an amazing track. I think his like more softer approach on this track is really welcomed. The chorus from Solange is stunning as well. She really brings together these amazing vocals that make this song so sweet and really just adorable as well. Like, the idea of falling in love with somebody, like, that is just so enchanting in this song. It really feels like a blissful love that I find to be so cute, really. And yeah, one of my favorite love songs in general, but obviously the entire narrative of the album plays out in a way that this song maybe not, you know, the song that you'd expect to be part of the bigger picture later on, because obviously it unfolds and turns a bit more sour and goes in many different directions. But for what it is as a singular track, I absolutely think this is a stunning song. Yeah, that's the pick for me. Call Me If You Get Lost now. Tyler's braggadocious, in your face, hard knocking album that brings you back to the 2000s with its mixtape feel to it, the Gangster Grills feel, the DJ drama yelling all over this thing. It's a really great album for Tyler, I would say. Yeah, absolutely. Just high energy, propulsive from start to end. It's not really Tyler's most lyrical or thoughtful album, really, you could say, but I love what he brings to the table here. And yeah, so many tracks I think are fantastic. Lemonhead, Hot Wind Blows is another great one. What's Your Name I think is a great track too. Of course, so many fantastic songs that I could have went for. Sweet, I Thought You Wanted to Dance. I think for me personally, I love the second half more than I do the first half. So picking that as a favourite track didn't seem right to me, but again, it's still fantastic. Yeah, so many good ones, but I want to go with Corso. I think it captures the essence of what Tyler is doing on this album, pretty much more so than any other track. Just so hard-hitting, braggadocious, just really fantastic, fun rapping from Tyler here. So many quotable lines. He's got a lot of character and shows a sense of humor on this track that I think is needed for this type of music, because I think when you are kind of just telling everybody how good you've got it in life, it isn't necessarily always the most appealing style of rapping for me personally. But Tyler has a bit more of that wittiness to him that I think carries this song. Yeah, I love Corso. Could have picked many of the other tracks on this album that offer a similar thing, but Corso just seems to be the one that I go back to the most. For what it's worth too, Sorry or Not Sorry would be my pick for the estate sale tracks. It's obviously not its own separate album though, and it is just a deluxe version of the original album, obviously. But I did want to mention Sorry Not Sorry, because I think if I were to talk about the entirety of Call Me If You Get Lost and the estate sale combined, that would be my pick. So I did want to mention that as well, just in case people were thinking why I didn't mention it. But yeah, Corso for the standard edition, but for the entirety in the deluxe version of the album, Sorry Not Sorry easily. That's one of his best songs ever to me. And that is that. Let's leave it there. We have done talking about the best song from every single Tyler the Creator album. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree with my picks? What would your picks be if you were to pick your own favorites from each album? Please subscribe as well for more videos like this in the future. If you want to see more stuff like this, please let me know. I can definitely make it a thing going forward. And yeah, stick around for more Tyler content too, because the new album is right around the corner and you don't want to miss my thoughts on that. So thank you as always. Do subscribe, check out more videos. Have a good day. Goodbye.